Now, strict border controls, southern geography and a good business environment have set New Zealand up well for future biotech innovations. And a published report by Biotech New Zealand, with global demand for biotech solutions, New Zealand is being found to be very well positioned for this in terms of solving the world's growing problems. We're now joined by Zahra Champion, who's the Chief Executive for Biotech New Zealand. Welcome to Sarah's Country, Zahra. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us on the show.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm really excited to be here, so thank you.
Now, the report has taken a broad OCED approach approach about the application of science and technology. This is around biotech for those who aren't understanding of the definition of what it actually covers. Could you explain?
So again, biotech's quite a wide and broad definition. And so in New Zealand, we really talk about biotech from the traditional right through to the modern biotechnology. So most of you know you'll be using that traditional biotechnology every day, whether it's your enzymes in your bread, whether it's brewing beer, whether it's your plant breeding. However, we start moving into some of those more modern biotechnology tools where we actually start manipulating some of our organisms. So when Biotech New Zealand talk about biotech, it's quite a broad range here because, as you know, we have very strict laws around some of those very modern biotechnology tools that we can't use other than in the research organisations.
Are we stifling the opportunities for New Zealand being so limited with our regulations around the likes of gene editing?
Look, absolutely. And for me, it's all around technology. And so it's around what are those technologies that can enable us to actually make those step changes. And so, again, as I talked about, we're talking about biotech, which comes from very traditional right through to modern biotechnology. It's not a for or against. It's actually about which tools do we want to use at what time. What are the risks? What are the benefits? And right now in New Zealand, we aren't even able to have those conversations. Because there's certain times when you say, actually, no, the risk is too high. We're not going to use that technology. And that's like with any technology that we have open and offered to us.
We are celebrating that there is significant opportunity still for Biotech New Zealand and for New Zealand to lead the way in solving some of the world's problems. What are some of the successful patent applications from the university's research institutes that we should be celebrating?
Oh, look, I mean, in terms of, we've got significant number of patents coming out of the universities and the CRI. We're certainly seeing, in terms of New Zealand, a huge amount of information in the plant breeding, animal breeding. We've seen ag research with its wonderful grasses that can live in dry, hot conditions, but also they reduce methane as well. There's many, many examples like that. We've got some amazing examples as well with companies.
Do you think that our real focus on biosecurity here, we put biosecurity in the primary industry above all else in some forms, is leading on to us having a flow-on effect to be able to share how we farm, how we go about things with the rest of the world?
Yeah, and I think biosecurity and sharing knowledge with the rest of the world, those are two very separate things. I do believe that our biosecurity is absolutely key. We have, a wonderful disease-free status. We have that because of our location. The other side of that is that, yes, we absolutely should be sharing information with the rest of the world. We should be looking at what technologies the rest of the world is using, bringing them here, and vice versa. New Zealand has some fantastic technologies that can help the world as well.
How important is the government's industry transformation plans?
Look, I think they're fantastic. I work very closely with Agritech, so across the Agritech one, which was the first one off the rank, I see that there's a number of ITPs coming as well. But I think one of the concerns is that they're very sector-based, and we have to make sure that they all interlink and they all cross over. So a good example is biotech is not a sector, it's a platform. It sits across, environmental, industrial, ag, but also human health as well. So you want to see that interplay across all the ICT, just the same as technology. You wouldn't just do, an IPT on technology. You'd want to make sure that it integrates across agri, environmental, industrial. But look, I think it's a great start. What I'm seeing is that they are pulling together the government agencies. You've got MBIE, Callaghan, MPI, MOH. They're all talking around how do we activate, how do we work together. And that is really transpiring to actually into the industry and actually going out and talking to the industry about how can we make a difference. I think it's fantastic. I really do. I think it's a great start.
The biggest thing I believe is that we are only as good as the adoption on farm. Are you concerned about it getting from lab into practice?
Look, I think there's an absolute concern, and we talk about, getting technologies out of the university CRIs and commercialising them. And there's that next step. So we struggle just to do that and then actually take the commercial product and put it on farm. I think there's a gap or a huge opportunity where we can start pushing a lot of this technology on farm. But it does require support. And I know a lot of the farmers are really excited about, those early adopters are really wanting to try this technology. But without the support and, you trial something, it may not work. You need somebody to come and say, actually, this just needs a bit of rejigging here. You need to do this. So I think there's a real, I wouldn't like to say it's a hand-holding, but I think there's a real opportunity to work, closer. I just heard before, it's about telling our really good stories. Now, if you've got a farmer that's adopted some new technology, so these early adopters, we can really showcase those farmers for the next crop who are unsure or they don't know how to bring that technology on. So showcasing is absolutely key. Absolutely key.
Thank you so much, Zahra Champion, the Chief Executive for Biotech New Zealand, and all that you do and part of the organisation that has just released their report to say New Zealand is sitting on the cusp of massive opportunity for being very leading in its innovation. And Richard Rennie has brought together that story for Farmers Weekly called Bright Prospects for Biotech on farmersweekly.co.nz and in your rural news mailbox.
This is Sarah's Country.